The movie opens in a classroom at a tutoring center. The teacher, after finishing his lesson, turned to the class to announce that from now on, he wouldn't be teaching at the tutoring center anymore. And to celebrate the last class before saying goodbye, he gave each student a book filled with important knowledge that only the tutoring center had. Just then, a delivery guy appeared in the classroom with a birthday cake in his hand. The teacher, feeling happy, when he found out the guy was still a student, gave him a book. But with his self-respect, the guy didn't take it and quickly walked out of the classroom. While the classmates were having the birthday cake, Ha-kyung quickly walked out of the classroom. After bowing to the teacher, she went downstairs to find the delivery guy. That was Nam's son, who was also her classmate at school. Without beating around the bush, she got straight to the point, asking how much she would have to pay Nam's son to keep quiet about Ha-kyung coming to the tutoring center. Hearing his friend say that, Nam's son didn't say anything and got into his delivery vehicle and left. The next morning, near the school gate, while getting ready to go in, Nam's son was stopped by some guys. They were the group that often caused trouble and bullied friends. To keep things peaceful, Nam's son had to take out his money and give it to them. In the school principal's office, they were having a meeting to elect a homeroom teacher for a class with many problem students, because the previous homeroom teacher of that class had resigned. Of course, nobody wanted to be the homeroom teacher for such a class. Since there was no one else, in the end, the school board had to assign Yong-woo, a new teacher who was only a contract teacher, to be the homeroom teacher. Having no other choice, she had to accept. When she took her first step into the classroom, it was almost like a battlefield, full of chaos, from pushing each other to skipping class, sleeping during class. It seemed like the students didn't think the teacher existed in the classroom, even though she called for order. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, they had received some photos of students at the school, smoking, and their job was to find out who the culprits were. Back in the classroom, Yong-woo was trying to restore order and announce the class rules when the rebellious Jung-ho walked in. Not only did he not greet the teacher, but he also sat down and put his feet on the desk with a very provocative attitude. Jung-ho even showed a challenging attitude towards the teacher by continuing to sleep. Just then, Mr. Jian walked in to check the students' belongings to find the smoking culprit. Seeing that, Jung-ho quickly took out the pack of cigarettes from his body and stuck it to the underside of his desk, knowing the teacher would call him first. And next, Mr. Jian called Nam's son to check Jung-ho's desk. He had just reported to the teacher that there was nothing, when for some reason, the pack of cigarettes fell right onto the floor in front of everyone in the class. Immediately after that, both of them were called to the tea room by the teacher and made to write self-reflection statements. Meanwhile, in the classroom, a student, after overhearing, ran back to the class to announce the whole story. It turned out that the kimchi seller at the school gate had taken photos of Jung-ho smoking and sent them to the education department, and Nam's son was also in that photo, so he was also considered an accomplice. And this time, the school was determined to be tough on those who violated the rules, potentially leading to expulsion. Because the photo wasn't clear enough to show faces, Mr. Jian had to question Nam's son to see if the person was Jung-ho, but he absolutely refused to say. As for Yong-woo, right from the start as a homeroom teacher, she felt like she was sitting on hot coals, because so many things were happening in the classroom she was managing. After thinking for a while, she went to the student council meeting room, where Mr. Jian and the two students were sitting, taking their punishment. Yong-woo said that she didn't agree with the punishment Mr. Jian had given, because they couldn't use an unclear photo to convict them and force them to drop out of school. And she would appeal to the very end if they kept that level of discipline for her two students. She didn't expect that right after she finished speaking. She looked to the side and saw not only Mr. Jian, but also the principal there, whom she hadn't seen when she entered. But the words were already spoken, and she couldn't take them back. She was holding her head, blaming herself. Then Mr. Jian called Yong-woo into the room and informed her that the school, after reviewing, found her words reasonable, so they had decided not to consider disciplining the students anymore. However, Jung-ho would still have to be punished with community service. As if a burden had been lifted from her mind, she happily accepted the responsibility of supervising him. Back in the classroom, Jung-ho and his gang started bullying the weaker students in the class again. A boy named Yong-woo was hit by some classmates because he didn't bring money to turn in. Seeing this, Nam's son stepped in to free him. Meanwhile, in the classroom, while Yong-woo was giving her lecture, Jung-ho put his feet on the desk, alternating between sleeping and playing with his phone. Seeing this, should she just give up on him? Yong-woo stepped forward and immediately confiscated his phone. Jung-ho reacted by grabbing the teacher's hand and trying to snatch his phone back. The whole class just sat and watched, even though the teacher called for help. After class, it was time for lunch, and it was also Yong-woo's turn to be in charge of the cafeteria. As she walked in, she already saw Jung-ho cutting in line to get food. Seeing her, he even provoked her by holding up his phone, After that, he even picked a fight and tried to go all out against his teacher. Witnessing that scene, unable to hold back anymore, Nam-sun rushed over and grabbed Jung-ho's collar, pulling him away. Just as a fight was about to break out, Mr. Jeon appeared. After that incident, many colleagues advised her not to get involved with him. But contrary to their thoughts, In-jae wanted to find out about Jung-ho's family background, to understand why he acted that way. She went to the classroom but couldn't find Jung-ho, so she messaged Nam-sun to call Jung-ho to the faculty room to pick up his phone. Nam-sun also advised his teacher not to confront them. As for the school board, they also called her in to talk and discuss disciplining Jung-ho, but she asked for more time and hoped to reform him using her own method. And to fix this situation, the principal gave a speech to the whole school about the alarming level of student disciplinary violations and how the school would no longer be lenient with such behaviors. Back in the classroom, In-jae was holding elections for class president and vice president when Ha-kyung volunteered to run. Then after 2 rounds of voting, only Nam-sun and Min-ki remained. In the middle of that, Jung-ho walked in and said he would vote for Nam-sun, so the whole class chanted Nam-sun's name in unison. As Nam-sun stepped out of the faculty room, his eyes caught the list of students who needed remedial classes. Oh, how embarrassing when his name was on that list, and the class was taught by Ms. In-jae. Finally, a stressful workday was over. In-jae and her friend went out for a drink to relieve stress, until they were really drunk before going home. The next morning, to prepare for the parent-teacher meeting for students entering the school, all the teachers were meticulously prepared. In-jae was looking in the mirror when a tall, cold-looking, peculiar guy walked up. At first, she mistook him for a parent, but when she entered the meeting room, she learned that he was the most outstanding teacher at Gangnam School, Si-chan, who was also an alumnus of the school and had been personally invited by the principal. Meanwhile, in the classroom, when only the 2 of them were left, Jung-ho started bullying Nam-sun. But unexpectedly, Nam-sun wasn't as easy as he thought. After being knocked down by Jung-ho, Nam-sun grabbed a chair and aimed it at Jung-ho. But unexpectedly he slipped, and the chair flew straight through the glass door, shattering it and falling to the ground, right in front of the principal. At this moment, she was also leading a group of parents on a school tour. When the teachers quickly ran up, they only saw Nam-sun there. The parents started to murmur, not understanding the reason. The principal quickly told Mr. Jeon to act as if nothing had happened, to maintain the school's reputation, and to prevent parents from thinking there was school violence. As for Nam-sun, he remained silent as usual, not uttering a word. And thanks to that, he escaped Mr. Jeon's discipline. Meanwhile, in the teacher's room, everyone was informed that there was no fight. It was just students playing around who broke the glass. A moment later, the principal brought Si-chan in and introduced him to everyone, and he would be in charge of Korean language. His workstation was right next to In-jae's desk. To show he was responsible, after the introduction, Si-chan started going to class. When he walked onto the school grounds, he coincidentally ran into Nam-sun. They quickly recognized each other and had a not-so-friendly greeting. Back with In-jae, she now discovered Yong-woo hiding in the restroom. She took him back to her room and questioned him, and he finally confessed that he was the culprit who broke the glass door. Seeing Jung-ho hitting Nam-sun, he had picked up a chair and lunged to hit Jung-ho. Unexpectedly, the chair flew out the window and fell outside. Seeing everyone running up, Nam-sun quickly urged him to hide, while he stayed to take the blame. After encouraging the boy, In-jae met with Mr. Jeon to confide in him. He also had the same concerns as her. They couldn't cover up such behaviors for the school's reputation. If they kept covering up, where would the fairness in school be? The next morning, as soon as he arrived at class, Nam-sun saw an announcement on the bulletin board about a school board meeting. A moment later, there was an announcement that the homeroom teacher called him to the activity room. The person worried about Nam-sun was none other than Ha-kyung. In the meeting room, In-jae was the last to enter. She reported to the school board that Nam-sun would not be coming because she had sent him home earlier. Everyone was astonished, especially the principal. She boldly said that that student had no reason to come to the disciplinary committee because he didn't throw that chair at all. If he told who threw that chair, you would call it tattling. Students would rather accept a high punishment than tattle on their friend. And our school doesn't teach students that. And so, with her protection of her student, Nam-sun only received a 7-day community service punishment. In another development, Si-chan was reading Nam-sun's disciplinary notice when Ha-kyung walked over. She proactively sought out Si-chan to say that they should act as if they didn't know each other, as if they had never met. Back to Min-ki's mother, as the head of the parent association. After seeing that Nam-sun couldn't be disciplined and that her child had been replaced as class president, she turned to vent her anger on In-jae. She subtly hinted to the principal that In-jae's homeroom role should be replaced by Si-chan, and she also vaguely suggested that she would help the principal quell rumors of school violence if her demands were met. In the classroom, Si-chan's first class began orderly, because his reputation was already as famous as a star. With a teaching style different from conventional logic, Si-chan's lecture attracted the focus of the entire class, except for one person, and that was the class president, Nam-sun. Seeing Nam-sun dozing off at his desk, Si-chan asked him, "Is my lecture so boring that you're sleeping?" "No sir, it's because I don't intend to go to university." "Alright, if that's your intention, then stand up and leave the class. And from now on you won't have to attend my class." Then, with a smug look, he continued to ask if anyone else wanted to leave the class. Immediately, little Yong-woo also stood up and followed Nam-sun out. After Si-chan's class, In-jae walked into the classroom. She was about to look for Nam-sun to tell him to collect the homework, when she was informed that Nam-sun had been kicked out of class, and the essay prepared for the lesson hadn't been read by anyone in the class. And she was even more surprised when students told her that Si-chan taught them that way, if they wanted to go to university. When she discussed this matter with Si-chan, he still wanted to stick to his educational philosophy. She continued to question him about why he kicked Nam-sun out of class, and he told her that he already knew she had covered up the fight for her student. Unexpectedly, that conversation was overheard by the principal, who was standing at the bottom of the stairs. She started asking In-jae who Yong-woo was, and demanded that she call Yong-woo's mother to school. After that, the result was that Yong-woo was suspended from school for 5 days, and had to transfer to another school. In the classroom, everyone began to think that it was because Nam-sun tattled, which led to such consequences. As for In-jae, moved by Yong-woo's mother's plea, she thought of a way to keep Yong-woo at school, but a colleague came and reminded her not to interfere in this matter, because she was only a short-term contract teacher. Think about yourself first. You could be fired at any time. But with the responsibility of a true teacher, In-jae still went to see the principal to plead for Yong-woo, and she cited the regulations to keep him. Although she didn't want to, the principal couldn't do otherwise in the face of In-jae's reasoning. In the classroom, seeing that students were coming to class late more and more often, In-jae also wanted to find out the reason. Originally, there was a rule in the class to collect money from those who were late, but since Nam-sun became class president, he had stopped collecting it. Therefore, in protest, other students encouraged each other to be late more often. Seeing this, In-jae decided to abolish that collection. But each time someone was late, they would have to memorize a poem. In another development, every day during Si-chan's class, Nam-sun still stood out in the hallway. Seeing this, Si-chan advised Nam-sun to come into class and listen to the lecture, and even said that thanks to him, Nam-sun didn't have to do community service. But Nam-sun still resolutely refused, because he didn't want to learn from a teacher who had secretly taught for money before. Back in In-jae's class, the atmosphere was joyful, when suddenly the principal brought Yong-woo and his mother into the classroom to say goodbye to everyone. Everyone was astonished, and the most disappointed person was In-jae. Unable to bear her student leaving the school, she quickly ran after them, and told Yong-woo's mother to reject the principal's decision to transfer schools, because parents had that right. This was also something the principal wanted to keep hidden. It's easy to describe the joy of Yong-woo and his mother, and the other classmates. As for In-jae, she went to see the principal to apologize, and was ready to accept if she terminated her contract. But the principal didn't dare to do that because In-jae was in the right. In-jae's actions for herself and her students had won the favor of the students in the class. They had started listening to her and liked attending her classes. Back to the principal. She wanted Si-chan to take over as homeroom teacher instead of In-jae. At the remedial class for struggling students, In-jae walked into the classroom to find no one there except Nam-sun. Just then, the principal and Si-chan walked in. Seeing the empty classroom, she blamed In-jae for being incompetent, and used the opportunity to announce that Si-chan would replace In-jae as homeroom teacher, which meant she would be fired. When the principal and Si-chan turned to leave, Nam-sun called everyone to class by texting them that he and Young-ho were about to fight. As for Young-ho, Nam-sun called him to provoke him into coming. This trick was indeed effective. Just a few minutes later, everyone rushed to the classroom and filled it up, and In-jae began her lecture. Her lecture didn't force students to go to university, but rather emphasized that everyone should have a dream of their own. When she asked what her dream was, she unhesitatingly said it was to be a teacher. After class, as In-jae left the classroom, Jung-ho walked up, intending to pick a fight with Nam-sun. They agreed to meet in a secluded spot without teachers to settle things. They went up to the rooftop and locked it, despite other classmates trying to stop them. In her room, In-jae began handing over everything related to the class to Se-chan, when a student came in to report about Nam-sun on the rooftop. Jung-ho and his two friends also started to rush in to hit Nam-sun. Meanwhile, on the stairs, In-jae ran up, called to open the door, and asked for the reason. That's when she learned that, in order for everyone to come to class and listen to her lecture, Nam-sun had resorted to provoking a fight with Jung-ho. Hearing the teacher calling at the door, Nam-sun suddenly became unusually agile. He lunged over the rooftop railing and swung himself down. He kept climbing down, gradually escaping. When In-jae and the other students managed to open the door and get onto the roof, there was no sign of Nam-sun. The group spread out, searching everywhere, but couldn't find him. They started gathering around, asking questions, encouraging the teacher, and demanding that she come to class tomorrow to be their homeroom teacher, because they liked listening to her lectures. Returning home, remembering her student's promise, made her even more determined to return. The next morning, while waiting for Si-chan and the principal to arrive, In-jae went to see the principal, hoping to be allowed to teach again. Si-chan also just arrived. Honestly, he didn't want to be the homeroom teacher for that class, so he used the opportunity to push it back to In-jae. But the principal didn't agree. After all, In-jae suggested having an additional assistant homeroom teacher. At first, the principal also refused, but due to Si-chan's influence, she had to agree. In the classroom, everyone started discussing that Si-chan would be the new homeroom teacher. While they were still half believing, he walked into the classroom. Seeing this, Nam-sun automatically stood up and walked out. But just then, In-jae also opened the door and entered the classroom. Seeing this, the students began to surround her joyfully. In the following classes, every time it was Si-chan's class, Nam-sun would leave the classroom. This action did not escape the eyes of Mr. Choi, who was also Si-chan's former teacher. He came into the classroom and told In-jae to let Nam-sun follow him, then took Nam-sun to the school's gym and shoved a mop into his hand. He was still wondering why when Si-chan also arrived, and both of them were assigned to clean that huge floor. Mr. Choi also said that every day during culture class, both of them would have to come and mop the floor, because one person skipped class, and the other was a teacher who didn't check the student attendance. So both were punished this way. After finishing cleaning, Si-chan proactively made peace with Nam-sun, because if they continued like that, no one would win, and the floor would still need to be mopped. As for Nam-sun, he didn't want to work with Si-chan. Therefore, they decided to make up with each other, and Nam-sun returned to Si-chan's class as if nothing had happened between them. Having two homeroom teachers also caused complications. Instead of doing one assignment, students had to do two, because each teacher assigned homework in their own style. As a result, every time homework was collected, Nam-sun also had to sort it out to give to each person separately. That wasn't all. Their class also received a new member, a student with incredibly bad academic performance who had transferred schools 5 times. In-jae, with her compassion, accepted him, but Si-chan did not. So they started arguing in the room again. Not satisfied, they dragged each other out to the schoolyard to continue refuting each other's points in front of the class. During recess, Nam-sun accidentally picked up the secret textbook that was given out at the Ha-kyung tutoring center. Thinking that she carelessly dropped it, he picked it up and put it in her desk drawer. But unexpectedly, after entering the classroom, realizing the book was missing, its owner, Un-hee, started looking for it and questioning the girl sitting nearby, then found it in Ha-kyung's desk drawer. Just walking into the classroom, not understanding what was happening, Ha-kyung was accused of stealing her friend's book. Not knowing how to explain, Nam-sun spoke up, saying that he was the one who put the book there. But Un-hee not only didn't believe him, but also thought the class president was defending the vice president. So she went to report it to the homeroom teacher. After school, Nam-sun was leaving when Yong-ho was already waiting at the gate. He motioned for Nam-sun to follow him. They went to a secluded, empty corner and started to punch Nam-sun. But Nam-sun preferred to be hit hard rather than fight back. He just took the beating. If it weren't for someone showing up, that was the student who had just transferred. Next, Mr. Jian also arrived, and they all scattered in chaos. Nam-sun was still standing and catching his breath when he got a delivery call. It turned out his friend, Ha-kyung, had rushed to the tutoring center and hadn't had time to change out of her school uniform. Therefore, she called Nam-sun to ask him to get her clothes so she could change, because that tutoring class was full of students from prestigious schools. But that action was discovered by another classmate, so she started spreading the word to the classmates that Ha-kyung was attending a normal school. With her cool personality, Ha-kyung still intended to go into the class, but Nam-sun didn't want Ha-kyung to be bullied by her friends, so he pulled her away and they left. Full of anger, Ha-kyung told Nam-sun to stop the car on the bridge, then threw her school uniform into the river. She felt embarrassed because she wasn't a student of a specialized school, but just a student of a normal high school, so she vented her anger on that uniform. The next morning, upon arriving at school, seeing that Ha-kyung didn't have a uniform, Nam-sun took his own and gave it to her, but a moment later, it was returned with the scolding. "You idiot, how can I wear a boy's uniform?" Today their class had a new member, Hyung-soo, the student with the incredibly bad record of 5 school transfers, and he was assigned to sit near Nam-sun. In another development, after his class ended, as Si-chan stepped out of the classroom, he immediately met the principal and 2 other people. They proceeded to investigate Si-chan for illegally tutoring students during extracurricular hours. In the classroom, seeing Hyung-soo just enter, Jung-ho tried to bully him, but Mr. Jiun and the class maintained order. Back to Si-chan. After hearing that someone had accused him of tutoring Ha-kyung, as if he had prepared beforehand, Si-chan presented a very reasonable explanation that prevented the principal and the other 2 from being able to accuse him. As for Ha-kyung, with her cool nature, she ignored the critical and provocative remarks from Eun-hee and her group of friends. Back in the classroom, Mr. Jiun began calling students to solve problems, including Hyung-soo, but he stood up and said he didn't know how to solve it, and in response to the surprise of the whole class and Mr. Jiun, he said, "Before coming here, I was determined to get my diploma from here. I will quietly study. Please don't bother me." After this debut, Hyung-soo's reputation was hotly discussed by everyone. Some even investigated and found out that Hyung-soo was also a skilled fighter. And Hyung-soo always was the most discussed topic in class or during everyone's meals. Feeling that his rank in the class might be changed, Jung-ho and his group sought out Hyung-soo to regain their position. They arranged to settle things outside of school. Back in the teacher's room, whenever they talked, In-jae and Se-chan would get into arguments about their working methods. In-jae wanted students to complete their self-introduction essays first, but Se-chan wanted to focus on studying first. And in all those arguments, In-jae was usually the one who lost out. In the classroom, Nam-sun personally brought a book to Hyung-soo's desk to give him. Instead of taking the book to study, Hyung-soo asked Nam-sun to buy him bread. Without a word, Nam-sun went out to buy it for Hyung-soo. Nam-sun's action caused great surprise to the entire class, because up until now, even when Jung-ho hit him, he wouldn't give in. So why would Nam-sun agree to run errands for Hyung-soo? Some said Nam-sun was a coward. Others said Nam-sun wanted to befriend Hyung-soo, which was why he did it. In the classroom, In-jae was trying hard to encourage students to submit their self-introduction essays. She wanted to understand her students' thoughts and dreams. Only Jung-ho's group didn't do it, and walked out despite In-jae calling them. Ha-kyung was also subtly avoided by her classmates. They scribbled on her book, and even threw it on the ground when she went outside. Only her friend Kang-ju sympathized with her. As for Jung-ho, he sat in the room with In-jae, but didn't want to listen to his teacher's advice, and showed uncooperative behavior with an indifferent attitude. Seeing Jung-ho's attitude like that, Si-chan walked up, looked him straight in the face, and said, "Jung-ho, if you hate school so much, then don't come to school anymore. If you want to show your insecurity, show it to those neighborhood kids. Actually, you're just someone who only behaves when you get a beating. You're just a coward who's afraid of getting hit, so you don't have to come anymore." At the entrance of the tutoring center, Ha-kyung was hesitating whether to go inside. She took out her phone, intending to call Nam-sun to bring her clothes as usual, but then put it back down. As for Nam-sun, he was walking into the school gate with Hyung-soo when Hyung-soo stopped. It seemed something had happened between them in the past, so Hyung-soo didn't want to study with or be near Nam-sun. Therefore, for Hyung-soo to go to class, Nam-sun had to leave, and he turned around to catch a bus back. As for Ha-kyung, she arrived at the bus stop. Despite the driver's reminder, she still didn't get off at school. Just then, she saw Nam-sun get on. In her room, In-jae was very surprised that both the class president and vice president were absent. She called Si-chan to the rooftop and demanded that he apologize to Jung-ho for what he had said to him the other day. But Si-chan maintained his view that with students like that, being lenient would only make them more agitated. On the bus, after reaching the stop, both Nam-sun and Ha-kyung got off. They walked and talked. Nam-sun asked Ha-kyung why she went to the tutoring center, and Ha-kyung asked Nam-sun why he had to run away from Hyung-soo. Nam-sun was about to tell Ha-kyung about their relationship when they arrived at the school fence. After inviting her, and Ha-kyung still wouldn't go in, Nam-sun had no choice but to jump over the fence and go inside. In a secluded corner of the school grounds, Hyung-soo was about to smoke when Nam-sun came and threw it away. The story of their relationship slowly unfolded. "Get lost quickly if you don't want a beating. Then, just hit me. I have nowhere else to go but school. Nam-sun, you're not bad at acting, are you? Even hiding your real age. Are you worried? Worried I'll reveal your messed up past? If everyone knew how messed up you were, how would they treat you?" After saying that, Hyung-soo turned and walked away. In another development, because Ha-kyung was discovered studying at a normal school, she was no longer allowed to study there. Not only that, they also used Ha-kyung's fault as an excuse not to refund her tuition. But Ha-kyung, being gentle, had Kang-ju, true to her enthusiastic friend reputation, Kang-ju demanded Ha-kyung's rights. In the end, seeing that they couldn't bully them, they had to return the money to Ha-kyung. After getting the money, the first thing Ha-kyung did was immediately buy a new uniform, while Kang-ju changed her torn dress from climbing over the wall to escape with Ha-kyung. In her room, In-jae was asking why Nam-sun refused to write his self-introduction when Young-ho's father called, saying he wanted to meet her. In a hurry, she went to her room to get her things, preparing to leave, when a colleague told her that Young-ho's father often got drunk and had once caused chaos throughout the school, and they were also concerned for her if she had to meet him. Seeing In-jae rushing out to catch a bus, Si-chan called her into his car so they could go there together. Back to Kang-ju and Ha-kyung. After shopping, they went to a restaurant. Kang-ju was curious to know why Nam-sun knew Ha-kyung had that notebook, so she told how they met in the tutoring class. It seemed Kang-ju had a special interest in Nam-sun. At this moment, Si-chan and In-jae were heading to the address Young-ho's father gave, but they called, and no one opened the door. Unable to wait any longer, Si-chan went to his car, intending to leave first. After being unable to convince Si-chan, In-jae returned by herself. As for Nam-sun, he received a call from Young-ho, calling him to witness their fight. At this moment, Young-ho and his two friends were fighting with Hung-soo. Hung-soo alone couldn't resist Young-ho's group and was beaten down to the ground. In a fit of rage, Young-ho picked up a rock, intending to break Hung-soo's leg. Seeing this, unable to stand by, Nam-sun jumped in to intervene. This was a completely different Nam-sun. He landed continuous blows that sent Young-ho sprawling to the ground, unable to resist at all. The brawl wouldn't have stopped if not for the appearance of In-jae and the police. Everyone was invited to the station, and In-jae bailed them all out. However, the police still required everyone to provide their ID numbers. Having no other choice, Nam-sun was forced to read his number to them, and at this moment, his real age was also revealed to everyone. While waiting for a resolution, Si-chan left. In-jae ran after him, asking him to keep this matter confidential from the school. After leaving the police station, In-jae reminded everyone that she was now their guardian, and if they caused trouble to compete for rankings again, she wouldn't let it slide and would inform their parents, and the school would investigate the incident. After that, she dismissed everyone. To boost academic performance for the upcoming exam, the school required all students to stay after school for extra lessons. Feeling this was unreasonable, In-jae and Si-chan together went to meet the principal. In the end, she agreed that their class wouldn't have to stay for extra lessons in the afternoon if they weren't ranked last in the upcoming exam. Bringing that idea to class and announcing it to the students, each person expressed it differently, and the expressions that encouraged students were always received better than Si-chan's realistic approach. On the rooftop, Young-ho and Nam-sun were standing together. Young-ho had found out that Nam-sun was the one known as the Iron Fist, but he just didn't understand why Nam-sun, with such skill, was controlled by Hung-soo. In the classroom, when In-jae returned the exam papers, unlike other times, Kang-ju's paper received the highest score in the class. Unconvinced, Ha-kyung angrily took her exam paper to In-jae to complain, believing her own paper was better. But for In-jae, Ha-kyung's paper didn't match the idea of the question. Ha-kyung argued that she was taught that an exam paper must be written exactly as the question required. In the classroom, Nam-sun was called by Mr. Jian to do a problem. Not only could he not do it, but he didn't even know the most basic things. During recess, only Nam-sun was left in the classroom, dozing off at his desk. Ha-kyung came and woke him up, insisting he study. Nam-sun, get up and study before I'm not nice anymore. Are you worried I'll bring down the class average? No, it's that I feel embarrassed that the class president studies so poorly. Then study hard to prepare for the upcoming assessment test. All stages of exam paper preparation were thoroughly checked. The principal, under pressure from Min-ki's mother, put pressure to have the exam paper assigned to Se-chan, and she also didn't forget to remind In-jae about improving the class's performance. Back at her seat, In-jae was forced to give her exam paper to Si-chan. Seeing this, he mocked her old-fashioned way of setting questions, and even criticized her for not understanding the current trend. Meanwhile, in the classroom, everyone seemed uninterested in studying, even though the teacher was lecturing. Some were talking amongst themselves. Others were dozing off at their desks. On the stairs, Ms. Yu was just walking down when her phone rang. She stopped to answer it and placed her laptop on the railing. Unexpectedly, a hand reached out and pulled out the USB drive that was plugged into her computer. When she finished her call, she looked back and saw that the USB drive containing the exam questions had vanished. Back in the classroom, after getting the exam questions, everyone started passing them around to copy. As for Ha-kyung, when she opened her locker to put away her things, she saw that all her books and supplies inside had been drenched with water and ruined. While In-jae was questioning from the podium who the culprit was, at the back of the classroom, Si-chan caught a student copying answers from the lost USB drive of Miss Yu, too angry with all the trouble in the class. In-jae made everyone line up. At first, she intended to use a broom to hit them, but then she used her hand to strongly slap each of her students' hands with suppressed frustration. Even though her hand was red and swollen, she wouldn't have stopped if Si-chan hadn't come in, held her hand, and pulled her out of the classroom. The principal also just ran over. As soon as she saw In-jae, she scolded her for hitting the students. But Si-chan took In-jae's hand and showed the principal. In-jae's swollen red hand. "Principal, please consider that teachers are also people who get hurt." After saying that, he pulled her away. The next day, it was time for class, but In-jae didn't show up. Returning to his desk, Si-chan opened In-jae's notebook to look, and in it was a passage that read, "I can't abandon these kids now." It turned out that In-jae always wanted to protect them. Meanwhile, in the classroom, it seemed that after everything In-jae had done, everyone had come to a realization. The whole class started encouraging each other to seriously reorganize their studies with high determination, and the atmosphere in the classroom became friendlier. Ha-kyung walked into the classroom and saw a new set of books on her desk. She went to find Nam-sun to say thank you. "How did you know it was me who bought them?" "How wouldn't I know? We're studying book number 1, not book number 2. Besides you, who else wouldn't know where we are in our studies?" During Mr. Choi's physical education class, when they saw In-jae walk by, the entire class chanted her name and clapped loudly. Mr. Choi, although scolding his beloved students to focus, looked at In-jae and winked at her as if to encourage her. To create a fun and friendly atmosphere among the classmates, Si-chan organized sports activities for everyone. Everyone eagerly participated, with only Hung-soo remaining on the sidelines. They were having fun when Min-ki's mother came to pick him up. Acting as someone with power, she showed contempt for In-jae's abilities. During Mr. Jeon's class, Hung-soo continued to be reminded for coming to school without his book. During recess, Nam-sun proactively sought out Yong-ho. It turned out that Yong-ho knew Hung-soo was Nam-sun's weakness, which was why he used Hung-soo to force Nam-sun to steal the exam questions. And so Nam-sun decided to comply with the request, with Jung-ho himself pulling out, showing no resistance. Taking advantage of the power outage, Nam-sun broke into the room where the exam questions were kept. Meanwhile, outside, everyone started to panic because the power suddenly went out. When the lights came back on, Nam-sun also quickly jumped over the wall and met Jung-ho's group. Answering Jung-ho's question about why he didn't take the exam questions, Nam-sun pulled out his phone and said, "I took pictures. I dare you to threaten me. I'll go report it to the Anti-School Violence Committee, and I'll say you forced me to do it." After saying that, Nam-sun confidently walked away, leaving Jung-ho fuming. In the classroom, in the chaotic atmosphere of preparation for the exam, In-jae walked in to encourage and check on the class. It was almost exam time, but Jung-ho's group and Nam-sun still hadn't arrived. A moment later, Nam-sun arrived, but he just slumped onto his desk and slept. Meanwhile, in the teacher's room, the vice principal began distributing the exam papers to the teachers and instructed them to check carefully and collect all the papers fully to prevent copyright infringement and online leaks. In the classroom, after the exam papers were distributed, everyone focused on their work. It seemed nothing would go wrong, until, when checking the exam papers again, the proctor suddenly discovered that a copy of the literature exam was missing. The problem was, they didn't know when it went missing, whether during distribution or printing, and from which class it went missing. This was reported to the principal, and they immediately launched an investigation to find out who stole it. To retrieve the exam papers, first they checked the cameras, but found nothing. Next, Si-chan went to question the students, but also without results. During mealtime, the news of the missing exam paper was widely discussed among everyone. No one knew who the culprit was. As for the school, this was a serious matter, so they considered retaking the exam. And the task of preparing the new exam was assigned to In-jae and Si-chan. That evening, after finishing the exam paper, as Si-chan was on his way to his car, he saw Mr. Jeon busily doing something near his car. It turned out Mr. Jeon wanted to check the memory on Si-chan's car's dashcam, and after opening it, everyone was astonished to discover Hung-soo walking past, and the number one suspect was brought to meet Mr. Jeon. Of course, Hung-soo denied everything. Meanwhile, in the classroom, everyone was discussing animatedly and showing admiration for Hung-soo. Nam-sun also heard these things and didn't say anything to anyone. He quietly went to Mr. Jeon's room and said that Hung-soo wasn't the one who did it, but that he himself was the culprit. Nam-sun made everyone go from one surprise to another. He told Mr. Jeon that he originally intended to steal it, but then changed his mind and didn't want to steal anymore because he didn't want to become a thief. "So how can I believe you?" Answering the teacher's question, Nam-sun looked him straight in the eye and said, "I intended to steal the exam questions, that's my fault, but I truly didn't take them. Finally, having no other choice, the principal intended to ask the police to intervene, but Se-chan asked for a one-day postponement so he could investigate himself. It seemed he had some clues. After that, Se-chan took In-jae to a tutoring center. Here, through his connections, Se-chan found evidence proving that Nam's son was not the culprit who stole the exam questions. It turned out it was a former student who had stolen and sold them to the cram school. As for Nam's son, even though he was cleared, he was still called out by In-jae to ask who had threatened him, and of course, he didn't utter a word. Returning to his home, Nam's son remembered Ha-kyung's reminder, "Study hard," and he took out the stack of documents Ha-kyung had given him to look at before, and then he went to find her to return them. After that, not letting Nam's son go home, she pulled him to the classroom to study for the exam. Contrary to Nam's son's indifferent attitude towards studying, Ha-kyung worked so hard that she constantly had to take anti-fatigue medication. And what had to happen, did happen. Due to extreme fatigue, Ha-kyung fainted in the classroom. Seeing this, Nam's son rushed in and carried Ha-kyung to the hospital. A moment later, Ha-kyung woke up. Luckily, her health wasn't greatly affected. It turned out that because she wanted to avoid falling asleep, Ha-kyung took many different kinds of medication, which led to a drug reaction. It turned out that due to the pressure of having to get into university and the fear of being inferior to her older siblings, Ha-kyung worked so hard that she forgot about herself to achieve that goal. As for Min-ki, his mother took care of him meticulously like a baby, also hoping he would achieve high scores. In the classroom, as soon as Yong-woo arrived, In-jae called him out privately and told him that she knew he had made Nam's son steal the exam questions. Without saying a word, Yong-woo went back into the classroom and loudly announced that Nam's son had exposed them, and he intended to direct that anger towards Hung-soo again. Next, he even told the whole class that Hung-soo and Nam's son had studied together in middle school and were older than their current classmates. After class, despite Kang-ju's best efforts to defend him, in response to his friend's questions, Nam's son frankly said that he had dropped out of middle school and studied in the same class as Hung-soo. In another development, in the school's faculty room, Min-ki's mother and some students came to pressure the school just because their children didn't achieve a perfect score of 100 points. She claimed the exam questions had problems, and then that Min-ki's class had a new transfer student who was from a rough background, and so on. Just then, in the hallway, Nam's son came to give Hung-soo a book, but he pushed it away, making it fall to the ground. Seeing this, Min-ki picked it up and gave it back to Hung-soo. Hung-soo, who already didn't like it, used his hand to push Min-ki down. Just then, Min-ki's mother saw it, and she started shouting and making a big scene. Feeling embarrassed, the principal ordered a school-wide investigation into school violence. At his home, Min-ki also started to react against his mother's parenting style. It was precisely because of her meticulous care wanting her son to be the best that one of his older brothers suffered from autism, isolating himself in his room. Back to the school violence investigation. After distributing questionnaires to collect information, in In-jae and Se-chan's class, most of the votes said they were bullied by Hung-soo. While In-jae was still half believing that story, Se-chan didn't hesitate to submit all those survey forms to Mr. Jeon. Se-chan's view was that he didn't want to cover up wrongdoings. It was better to deal with an individual to strengthen the group than to let it be repeated later. In-jae, on the other hand, wanted to hide it to give the students who made mistakes a chance to correct them. Meanwhile, in the classroom, to help Nam's son, thinking he was being bullied by Hung-soo, everyone wrote Hung-soo on the survey forms instead of Jung-ho. Not only that, Kang-ju also told Mr. Jeon that she had personally seen Hung-soo bully Nam's son. However, when asked, Nam's son denied it, saying that buying food or books for Hung-soo was just his own free will. Of course, the school board didn't believe what Nam's son said because they all thought he was a victim and was just afraid to tell the truth. Seizing that opportunity, Min-ki's mother insisted that Hung-soo be expelled. As for Hung-soo, after leaving Mr. Jeon's office, he met Nam's son. The two of them couldn't talk nicely to each other anyway, so Hung-soo proactively grabbed Nam's son's collar and provoked him. Seeing that, when he took that beating, his leg was broken. Kang-ju ran to call Mr. Jeon to intervene. Noticing everyone's attention, Nam's son proactively tried to reduce Hung-soo's anger. In the teacher's room, everyone was discussing how to handle this matter. In-jae, as usual, wanted to downplay the severity of the incident, and Se-chan was the same. He still maintained his view that it was better to sacrifice one student to save the whole class than to hide things. But at this moment, Mr. Choi was still the clear-headed one. He wanted to understand the reason why it was like this. The next day, in the classroom, everyone thought Hung-soo would definitely be expelled. Seeing Yong-ho and his friend's rather smug expressions, Hung-soo now told the whole class that, even if he wasn't in class, Jung-ho couldn't do as he pleased anymore. because there was someone else far more formidable than him, and he hinted at the fight the other day where Jung-ho got a good beating because of that person. During class, In-jae gave an essay topic. Describe an event that happened with 5 sentences. After their friend Gi-dok finished, Nam-sun raised his hand to volunteer to stand up, looked at Hung-soo, and said, "My dream is to be a soccer player. The coach said that if I wanted to continue playing soccer, I had to withdraw from the fighting gang. But to withdraw, I had to take a beating. So when I took that beating, my leg was broken. The fighting king is the evil person who destroyed my dream. And that evil person is gone Nams. So Hung-soo did nothing wrong." When everyone heard Nam-sun say that, the entire class was silently astonished. Just then, Si-chan walked in and invited In-jae and Hung-soo to meet the principal. In the principal's office, she had already learned about Jung-ho and Nam-sun fighting and having to go to the police station. She called In-jae outside and scolded her for not reporting it to the school, and then demoted her from her homeroom teacher position to give it to Si-chan. Returning to the classroom, In-jae couldn't focus on lecturing at all. She apologized to the students and then walked out, leaving the entire class bewildered. At the school's disciplinary committee meeting, after hearing the truth from Se-chan, they decided to send Hung-soo back to class first, and then began discussing the form of punishment. Min-ki's mother, as usual, demanded that Hung-soo be expelled. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi opposed that idea with his very empathetic analysis. The principal was about to cast her vote when In-jae walked in. When asked for her opinion, In-jae said she had noticed changes in all the problematic students, even Jung-ho, and that these students should be given a chance to correct their mistakes instead of being pushed down. After she was asked to leave, the voting began inside. When both sides, those who wanted to expel Hung-soo and those who opposed it, were tied with 3 votes each, Si-chan then stated his opinion, supporting the expulsion of Hung-soo. In the classroom at this moment, Hung-soo picked up his bag and walked out of the classroom. Seeing this, Nam-sun ran after him to stop him. He wanted to apologize and repay his debt for what he had caused Hung-soo, but Hung-soo didn't want to forgive him. Returning to the disciplinary committee, after Si-chan's initial words agreeing to expel Hung-soo, Min-ki's mother smiled triumphantly. But it wasn't over yet. Si-chan continued, "That's my personal opinion. But today I am here representing Ms. In-jae, and that is to support Park Hung-soo staying in class." After that counter-argument, Se-chan was called for a private talk with the principal. She expressed disappointment in Se-chan. However, Se-chan showed no fear, and even suggested that In-jae continue to be the homeroom teacher. Back to In-jae, after being informed that she would continue to be the homeroom teacher, In-jae ran to Hung-soo's house to find him but didn't meet him. At this moment, Nam-sun also just arrived there. He told the teacher about their quiet conversation, with glistening eyes, that Hung-soo was originally a very good soccer player, and was filial to his mother. But all of Hung-soo's dreams were ruined by Nam-sun. Hung-soo started to quit soccer, and became rebellious due to being led astray by Nam-sun. After In-jae left, Nam-sun went to find Hung-soo. Hung-soo was very angry with Nam-sun for ruining his future, so he didn't want to see Nam-sun every day, because every time he saw him, the memory of his broken leg came back. In the classroom, because Hung-soo didn't come to school, In-jae told Nam-sun to find every way to contact Hung-soo, and tell him to come to class. Otherwise, he would be expelled. Nam-sun called, but still got a no from Hung-soo. Finally, Nam-sun told Hung-soo that he would give up the most important thing to him in exchange for Hung-soo coming to school. Back in the classroom, after almost all the students had left, Mr. Jeon also came to check if Hung-soo had arrived, which was also when Hung-soo walked in. And the most important thing Nam-sun wanted to sacrifice for Hung-soo to return to school was his own withdrawal application. But it seemed that this still didn't satisfy Hung-soo. Meeting him outside the school gate, Hung-soo's cold words were, "This is a bit simple, isn't it? Don't you have anything bigger?" Nam-sun then looked straight at Hung-soo and said, "What I want to give up is not school, but you, my friend." After saying that, Nam-sun walked away, returning home feeling dazed. Nam-sun remembered the time he and Hung-soo went to the supermarket and were falsely accused of stealing, and Hung-soo stood up to protect him. The next day, in the classroom, seeing Nam-sun's empty seat, Si-chan asked and learned that Nam-sun had dropped out. After class, Ha-kyung went outside to text Nam-sun and was seen by Kang-ju. In the teacher's room, In-jae showed Se-chan Nam-sun's withdrawal application. After reading it, he said it was not valid because it didn't have the parents' consent, then advised In-jae to be patient and wait, just like she waited outside Jung-ho's house. And he also advised In-jae to go to Nam-sun's house and meet him directly instead of just texting and hoping he would reply. But In-jae had already gone to Nam-sun's house to find him, but didn't meet him. Therefore, Si-chan had to go to the classroom to ask the students to help him find Nam-sun's whereabouts. At a gas station, as Si-chan pulled up, he saw Nam-sun being scolded by the owner for a miscalculation that wasn't his fault, and the owner even threatened to deduct his salary. Seeing this, Si-chan got out of his car and told the gas station owner that he was Nam-sun's homeroom teacher, and warned him that he was exploiting children by paying them below the regulated wage. In the classroom, Yong-woo and his friends walked in. Not seeing Nam-sun, Jung-ho started to provoke Hung-soo by turning on the fan. When Ha-kyung asked him to turn it off and he didn't comply, she stood up, intending to turn it off. But Jung-ho rudely stopped her. Seeing this, Hung-soo slowly stood up and turned it off. Just waiting for that, Jung-ho advanced, intending to pick a fight with him. But luckily, everyone intervened and pushed Jung-ho out of the room. Meanwhile, at the gas station, after Si-chan's request to meet Nam-sun privately was not met, he parked his car there, obstructing other cars, and started pumping gas, leaving the owner no choice but to push Nam-sun into the car to leave quickly. After that, Si-chan drove Nam-sun to a secluded place. He began to explain to Nam-sun the benefits of having a high school diploma instead of dropping out to work. Then he showed him the withdrawal application and said he would agree if it had Nam-sun's father's signature. At school, while In-jae and Se-chan were talking, they met the principal and her friend who came to visit the school. That person turned out to be Ha-kyung's mother. Since Si-chan used the excuse of having a class to avoid meeting her, In-jae had to go in and meet her to talk. As someone from an education research association, she showed great expertise when she noticed that the two different teaching styles in literature caused confusion in the students' learning. After Ha-kyung's mother left, the principal asked In-jae to change her teaching style because their two styles were too different. So she requested In-jae and Se-chan to teach in their best individual ways to see whose method was better. In the pilot class for Korean language arts, that method would then be applied to all 11th grade Korean language arts classes. And so, the 11th grade class they were homeroom teachers for was made into a pilot class. In-jae, with her diligence, continued to impart knowledge to all students. She couldn't neglect the weaker students, so she wanted to introduce a teaching plan that was more suitable for them. Si-chan, on the other hand, was completely different. He focused on imparting knowledge quickly to the academically strong students. In another development, In-jae went to the gas station to find Nam-sun to persuade him to return to school, and she also said she would call Nam-sun's father to inform him. In the classroom, although she appeared cool, Ha-kyung showed great concern for Nam-sun. She proactively sought out Hung-soo to ask, and very intelligently, she guessed that Nam-sun's absence might be due to Hung-soo. Then she advised him to put aside his ego to integrate with everyone, and also help Nam-sun return. As for Nam-sun, he arrived at school to meet his teacher as arranged, and was about to give his father's phone number to In-jae when Si-chan walked in, said he needed to see Nam-sun, and pulled him outside. In the hallway, Hung-soo was already there. Both of them were led by Si-chan to the gym, and each given a mop with the declaration that no one could leave until Nam-sun's request to drop out was resolved. Then he went out and locked the door, leaving his two students inside. After coming out of the gym, Nam-sun told Hung-soo to rest assured, because he wouldn't return to school. But this time, contrary to his thoughts, Hyung-soo said, "Go to school. The teachers won't give up. I feel annoyed getting involved in these things because of you. Don't stand there doing silly things. Go to school." Nam-sun's return to school bothered Jung-ho, so he and his friends planned to deal with Nam-sun and Hung-soo. Pretending to be a customer, Jung-ho called Nam-sun to hire him to help bring a new motorcycle to school. When he drove up, Hung-soo ran down to report that the motorcycle was stolen by Jung-ho, so he should run quickly, but it was too late. The owner of the motorcycle and his gang appeared, and rushed to attack Nam-sun. Hung-soo and Nam-sun then ran upstairs to avoid being chased by them. They ran up to the billiards room and ran out of ways to go, and the gang also chased them there. Having no other choice, the two had to rely on each other to fight together. After a while of fighting, both Hung-soo and Nam-sun managed to escape to the street, got on a bus, and fled. In the classroom, there was a little trouble now. The reason was that the principal required those who wanted to study with In-jae to go to a separate class, and those who wanted to study Si-chan's way to go to a separate class. And the trouble arose when no one wanted to split classes, and in protest, everyone skipped that class. In another development, Jung-ho and his friends met Hung-soo returning. He started to use his old tricks to provoke him again. Jung-ho still thought Hung-soo would remain silent as always, but this time it was completely different. After giving Jung-ho a punch, Hung-soo began to warn, "Nam-sun has washed his hands of fighting, but I haven't. If you want to go to school peacefully, you should stop here. Otherwise, I'll see how well you can take a beating." The next day, in the classroom, In-jae still didn't see Nam-sun come to class. and Si-chan announced that the whole class would be punished with cleaning for skipping class. Just then, Nam-sun walked in with his bag, and the whole class was extremely happy about his return, especially Kang-ju. She hugged Nam-sun's neck and said that Ha-kyung had been very hurt because of him. Because Nam-sun had been absent for 10 days, he was punished by Mr. Jeon to be on duty with Hung-soo, and Si-chan himself supervised them. And with his sharp eye, Si-chan didn't give the two students any rest at all. He always found tasks for them to do so they wouldn't have time to argue. Meanwhile, in a room outside the school, the principal and Se-chan were sitting with Min-ki's mother and Ha-kyung. They seemed to be tacitly collaborating to target In-jae and use the class separation as leverage to force the school to teach according to Se-chan's method. Although she was very annoyed by this parental interference in professional matters, the principal couldn't do otherwise. If academic performance didn't improve, the one who would naturally be affected by being judged as incompetent was In-jae, and she conveyed that thought to Si-chan to ask him to help In-jae. In another development, Ji-hun, a friend in Young-ho's group, had started to feel that he should focus on studying. So he went to talk to Jung-ho, but was beaten by Jung-ho and not allowed to leave the group. During the English listening comprehension assessment exam, while everyone was focusing on listening to the questions, Jung-ho started making noise despite In-jae's persuasion. Seeing this, Si-chan stepped forward and pulled him out of the exam room. In the storage room, Hung-soo and Nam-sun were inside. Nam-sun apologized and wanted Hung-soo to let go of the past, but it seemed that Hung-soo still held grudges. So in a fit of anger, he pushed Nam-sun into a pile of old desks and chairs, causing Nam-sun to fall and pass out. Seeing Nam-sun unconscious, Hung-soo was terrified and banged on the door, calling for help, because the security guard had locked it from the outside. Luckily, at that moment, Nam-sun woke up and only had minor scrapes on his hand, making Hung-soo breathe a sigh of relief. This was the first time they talked without tension. They had always been very close, considering each other like brothers. Meanwhile, in the teacher's room, Mr. Jeon discovered Hung-soo and Nam-sun's absence. He guessed they were still on school grounds and went to look for them. Arriving at the storage room, he noticed smoke coming out, so he went there and opened the door. Very quickly, Si-chan walked in and picked up a cigarette butt from the ground before Mr. Jeon walked in, and he claimed he was the one who smoked to cover for his two students. As for Yong-ho, after dropping out of school, he hung out with his bad friends and then instigated them to find and beat up Nam-sun and Hung-soo. Luckily, Nam-sun saw them in time and pulled Hung-soo out of the school by climbing over the fence. Meanwhile, Ji-hun and Yi-kung proactively went to find In-jae to ask her to help Jung-ho return to school. In the classroom, with only the two of them, Hung-soo proactively suggested to Nam-sun that from now on, they would both try to study hard so they wouldn't return to their old ways. But just when everything seemed fine, as Nam-sun walked out of the school gate, he immediately encountered Jung-ho's group waiting to snatch him. Seeing this, Hung-soo quickly ran after them but was too late. After being taken to their spot, Nam-sun not only didn't resist, but even willingly let them beat him, hoping to quickly end the incident and spare Hung-soo. After beating Nam-sun to their satisfaction, they let him go home, which was also when Hung-soo ran over. Realizing Nam-sun's sacrifice to atone for his mistakes, Hung-soo began to soften, and they walked together again as if nothing had ever happened. After being gang-beaten, the two male leads had a brief heart-to-heart. Hung-soo proactively wanted to put an end to all their previous misunderstandings so they could both move forward. This deeply moved Nam-sun. After saying that, Hung-soo left, leaving Nam-sun with many thoughts. The next morning at school, the two teachers, In-jae and Se-chan, were very troubled trying to handle the previous incident involving Hung-soo and Nam-sun. According to regulations, one of the two students had to transfer schools when a fight occurred. But for Se-chan, the best solution was for the two students to meet regularly, which would help mend their relationship. In the classroom, everything was proceeding normally. Both Nam-sun and Hung-soo were present in class to continue their studies. In-jae went to see Mr. Jeon for advice on how to resolve Nam-sun and Hung-soo's issue. The principal wanted her to listen to her heart and she would find the appropriate answer. She sat lost in thought, forgetting the time for class, which made Si-chan have to remind her. He also advised her to just ignore it for now and continue her work, then find a solution later. In the classroom, Yi-kung came to find Ji-hun with an extremely rude attitude, wanting Ji-hun to make peace with Jung-ho about last night's incident. But Ji-hun didn't care. Min-ki was annoyed and stood up, showing an attitude of wanting to kick Yi-kung out, which angered the young man. Jung-ho intended to pick up a desk to hit Min-ki, but fortunately, the two teachers walked in just in time to resolve the conflict. After that, they arranged to meet the students for a private talk. Later in the office, Kang-ju and Min-ki informed Se-chan of their decision to participate in the essay writing exam. But the teacher wanted both of them to have a more positive attitude before the exam. Next was the conversation between In-jae and Min-ki. The student wanted In-jae to help her improve her academic performance, and also not to let Yong-ho return to the classroom. She also wanted In-jae not to use any new teaching methods, because everything was very stable as it was. The scene shifts to the principal's office, where she made the decision to have Ha-kyung replace Kang-ju in the essay writing competition, as well as the selection for S University. Si-chan tried to persuade her with the reason that Ha-kyung didn't have enough experience for this big exam, but the principal quickly shut him down, stating that he was just a temporary lecturer with no authority to voice an opinion like that. The announcement of the candidates for the essay competition was posted on the bulletin board, which made Kang-ju feel very disappointed. She cried alone in the restroom due to the unfairness from the school. When she came out, she accidentally met Nam-sun, who was collecting homework. Knowing that her friend Kang-ju seemed sad, Nam-sun did a funny dance to cheer her up. After that, Nam-sun went to the proctor's office to submit the homework when he accidentally overheard that he or Hung-soo, one of them, would be forced to transfer schools. In-jae explained to Nam-sun that this transfer was according to regulations, because Nam-sun's previous assault was quite serious. Nam-sun admitted that he would be the one to transfer instead of Hung-soo. Kang-ju, who was outside, heard the entire conversation. Next, in the cafeteria, Nam-sun proactively approached Hung-soo to talk. Hung-soo intended to leave, but Nam-sun asked his friend to sit and eat with him. The meal was quite awkward. Next, Nam-sun went to see Mr. Jeon to receive his transfer decision. The effective date of the decision would be 1 week from today. Upon returning to class, Si-chan suddenly asked Nam-sun and Hung-soo to meet him privately. It turned out that the scores of the two students in the recent exam were quite low. One got a level 7, and the other wasn't far behind with a level 8. The teacher wanted to know why their academic performance had declined so much. Then he made both of them copy all the incorrect answers and not miss a single word. The two students were quite disgusted when they heard this punishment from Si-chan. Seeing the two copying for too long, Si-chan gave them a new punishment, a basketball throwing competition. Each time the ball went into the hoop, 1 page of copying would be deducted. The two young men competed very eagerly, trying to earn every point to avoid copying. Under Si-chan's observation, both collapsed on the floor when they were tired. The teacher even mocked the two of them. Wouldn't it be great if you were this enthusiastic about studying? The news that Nam-sun would be transferred surprised Hung-soo. When work ended, In-jae wanted to go home to return Yong-ho's phone. Si-chan wanted to go along to persuade this student to return to school. However, when they arrived at the house, Jung-ho wasn't there, so they both decided to wait together. At this moment, Jung-ho was on the street when he encountered his two close friends looking for him. Knowing that Jung-ho was running errands for the gang leader here made his two friends quite disappointed. They wanted Jung-ho to return to school, but the stubborn young man refused. Ji-hun and Ji-dok wanted to take Jung-ho home, but were pushed down and insulted by him. Both were quite disappointed, so they ignored Jung-ho and left. Meanwhile, while waiting for Jung-ho to return, the two teachers suddenly heard noise inside Jung-ho's house. Both rushed in, intending to break down the door to see what was happening. Just as Jung-ho returned, it turned out that his drunken father was inside, smashing things. Si-chan advised Jung-ho to return to school, but he refused, saying that the school hated him. In-jae tried to persuade Jung-ho, but it only made him more resentful. It was only when Si-chan got straight to the point and touched Jung-ho's pride by mentioning his mother that Jung-ho got angry and tried to hit the teacher. But by convincing him that violence solves nothing, and Jung-ho's anger only proved he wanted to return to school, Si-chan told Jung-ho to come to school tomorrow. Being hit where it hurt, the young man got too angry and left. The next day, in the classroom, students received their English test results. Everyone's face was blank because the scores were quite low. Everyone complained and unanimously blamed Jung-ho, so Si-chan had to immediately correct them. After that, Nam-sun went to see Mr. Jeon to receive his decision to drop out and transfer schools. The teacher also told Nam-sun to think carefully before signing. Just then, Hung-soo walked in with a very serious attitude. Hung-soo revealed the truth. The previous incident was not an assault, and Nam-sun was not the bully. They were simply friends and had made peace with each other. Nam-sun was incredibly moved when he heard these words, which also helped the teacher understand the story and withdraw Nam-sun's transfer decision. From here on, the relationship between the two students was mended. Returning to the classroom, the students were discussing their English exam scores. Everyone blamed Jung-ho and felt it was deserved that he was expelled. Yi-kung was very annoyed by this and showed her displeasure. When the atmosphere was tense, Jung-ho suddenly walked coldly into the classroom, surprising everyone. Meanwhile, in the office, a meeting was taking place to announce the decision to stop the two-teacher, one-class system. meaning that In-jae and Se-chan would only have one person as the homeroom teacher, while the other would teach normally. However, Se-chan opposed this decision by the school because he knew the students wouldn't agree. After that, the two teachers returned to the classroom to announce Young-ho's return and that In-jae would no longer be the homeroom teacher for the class. Se-chan would take on this responsibility, but this was only a proposal, so the students' opinions were very much needed. After a moment of looking at each other, in the end, only a few hands went up in protest, which made In-jae very sad. After that, she cleared her desk to leave. Despite Se-chan trying to persuade her to wait, she was still determined to leave, but Se-chan stopped her. In Se-chan's eyes, In-jae was an ideal teacher whom he always dreamed of being and always tried to emulate. These words made In-jae melt and slump down. However, at this moment, she still couldn't accept it, so she proactively left. In the classroom, due to In-jae's departure, the class was split into two opinions. The conflict between Young-ho and Min-ki occurred again. This time, Nam-sun stood up to protect Min-ki, making Jung-ho quite angry. Yi-kung intervened and pulled him outside. Meeting Se-chan on the stairs again, the teacher advised Jung-ho to return to class immediately and stay silent, because this would be the last time he covered for him. The scene shifts to the next morning. In-jae woke up, thinking she was late for work, but she suddenly realized she had been fired. When she opened her phone, there were many messages from colleagues and students in the class asking how she was. Because he couldn't contact In-jae, Se-chan went to her house that evening to find her, scolding her for not replying to his messages. After that, although In-jae went to a coffee shop to talk, Se-chan asked about In-jae's decision to quit, wanting her to think carefully about it. But In-jae said she would complete her resignation letter tomorrow. Although he was quite regretful, Se-chan had no other choice. After that, In-jae went home to write her resignation letter and was quite troubled by her decision. The scene shifts to the next morning. In-jae went to the office to submit her resignation letter to Mr. Jeon. Mr. Jeon gave a reason and refused to accept this letter because he also wanted to keep In-jae. And he even said, "If quitting just because students hate you, then I should be the first one." That made In-jae reconsider. Finally, In-jae decided to stay and work, which made Se-chan quite happy. After that, In-jae met Jung-ho on the school grounds. She returned Jung-ho's cell phone to him. Jung-ho also wanted In-jae to continue teaching so that he would have the motivation to continue coming to school. After that, he left, leaving In-jae with many thoughts. The scene shifts to the classroom. Min-ki started to needle Ha-kyung about not participating in the essay writing competition, which made Ha-kyung quite angry. After that, Kang-ju walked in, wanting to talk privately with Ha-kyung, but in an unstable state, Ha-kyung lost her temper with Kang-ju and accidentally injured Kang-ju's hand, causing the whole class to panic. After that, In-jae and Kang-ju returned from the hospital. Kang-ju didn't blame Ha-kyung at all, because she knew it was just an accident. Kang-ju also expressed her remorse for not raising her hand to protest In-jae's decision to leave teaching. In-jae felt very happy about that. Next, Kang-ju met Ha-kyung's parents in the office. They were worried that Kang-ju would accuse their daughter of school violence, so they tried to persuade Kang-ju that it was just an accident and requested to meet Kang-ju's parents to negotiate. Kang-ju said she didn't blame them at all, but Ha-kyung's parents wanted a written confirmation from her. Ha-kyung, listening nearby, couldn't stand her parents' unreasonableness, so she walked out. After that, Kang-ju still gave Ha-kyung's parents a confirmation as they wished. When they met again, Ha-kyung's parents expressed extreme dissatisfaction with the two girls' excessive behavior, and this made it even harder for the two to mend their relationship. Therefore, In-jae came up with a solution. She took both of them to the infirmary so they could have a private talk. There, the two friends poured out their hearts and let go of their grievances. They became close again and discussed going to university in the future. The scene shifts to lunchtime. Nam-sun and Hung-soo sat eating together, which surprised their friends greatly. Even more surprisingly, Jung-ho proactively came and sat at the same table with Nam-sun and Hung-soo, and even picked up food for both of them. They looked incredibly adorable. After that, a meeting was held in the classroom to gather opinions on keeping In-jae to continue as the homeroom teacher. When Min-ki voiced his support, he was shocked by the information that his own mother was the one who had accused In-jae and wanted her to quit. Quite shocked by that, Min-ki walked out. Nam-sun chased after him, trying to help Min-ki calm down, persuading Min-ki that his mother only did it for his good. But Min-ki didn't listen and left. The scene shifts to that evening. As Hung-soo was out buying clothes with his aunt, he coincidentally saw Jung-ho walking by. Suspecting that Jung-ho was up to something shady again, Hung-soo immediately chased after him. It turned out that Jung-ho was tracking where In-jae and Nam-sun stored a document bag near the school gate. A group of thugs was waiting for Jung-ho inside to steal the items to repay their debt. Hung-soo arrived and found Nam-sun on duty, so they both went to look for Yong-ho together. After managing to sneak into the principal's office, they both discovered that the cabinet had been broken into, and the document bag was missing. In the essay writing exam room, Min-ki accused Se-chan of intentionally leaking the exam to make his friend Min-ki quit the exam. As Nam-sun and Hung-soo reached the door, the alarm suddenly blared. While they were both bewildered, Yong-ho ran past, carrying the bag of items. Discovering Yong-ho, Hung-soo immediately snatched the bag, put it into a locker, and Nam-sun told Yong-ho to run quickly from there. After that, all three young men quickly ran away from the scene, blocked by the security guard, but the three of them split into two directions to escape. Se-chan returned to his office and discovered that the documents in the bag had been stolen. Hung-soo and Yong-ho ran to the stairs but were blocked by Se-chan. Seeing the document bag in the teacher's hand, Jung-ho got nervous and ran off upstairs. On the rooftop, after quitting the exam, Min-ki had a dark thought and stood on the railing with the intention of jumping. Below in the schoolyard, Nam-sun ran out and discovered Min-ki's school bag falling from above. When In-jae arrived, she was horrified to realize that Min-ki might be upstairs. The two rushed up to the rooftop. Fortunately, Min-ki hadn't given up hope but was curled up in a corner. In-jae hugged Min-ki, encouraging him to stay calm. After that, the two talked. Min-ki, due to academic pressure and pressure from his mother, had had foolish thoughts. He had actually contemplated death while standing on that rooftop, but he was afraid. In-jae encouraged him, saying that Min-ki had thought correctly and overcome that negativity. Min-ki felt grateful and lucky to have In-jae by his side at this fateful moment so he could be stronger. Because of the illegal entry into the school, Se-chan punished Nam-sun and Hung-soo to clean all the school windows tonight. While cleaning the windows, Nam-sun asked Hung-soo, "Why did you know Yong-ho would cause trouble and come?" Hung-soo suspected that Yong-ho had borrowed a large sum of money from the thugs. After that, Se-chan asked the two students about the document bag that Yong-ho had stolen, but both still covered for him. Therefore, the teacher arranged for them to bring Yong-ho to school tomorrow morning, at any cost, to meet him and resolve the matter. The scene shifts. In-jae took Min-ki home, wanting to go inside to meet Min-ki's mother and explain the recent incident. But Min-ki was determined to tell his mother everything himself and break free from her shadow. Finally, Min-ki confessed everything about quitting the exam and just wanted to rest without discussing anything further. It turned out that Min-ki had an older brother who also, due to too much pressure from his mother and grades, ended his life at a very young age, and he didn't want to follow in his family's footsteps. The next morning, Nam-sun personally went to Jung-ho's house and brought him to school. The young man grumbled that he didn't want to go, yet he was already wearing his uniform to school. In the principal's office, she was scolding Se-chan for leaking the exam questions, but the teacher denied it, saying the questions were distributed after being thoroughly vetted. Someone must have leaked them during distribution. He also subtly criticized her for intentionally firing In-jae, which left the principal speechless. Next, Mr. Jeon informed In-jae that a replacement had been found, so she only had one more week to work. In the classroom, Se-chan announced that the essay competition would be reorganized, and the person who leaked the questions was under investigation. Along with that, a new Korean language teacher would replace the current one in another week. Mr. Jeon met Jung-ho to talk, knowing that he was the one who stole the document bag last night, and that the act was highly reprehensible. But he only made him write a self-reflection statement and performed community service for 5 days. Jung-ho also stated that the reason he returned to school was because of In-jae. The scene shifts as Se-chan was investigating who leaked the exam questions. The vice principal walked in with an extremely submissive attitude. It turned out that the vice principal himself had leaked the questions while drunk and wanted Se-chan to help keep it a secret. But Se-chan was not easily swayed into agreeing, because the students still suspected Se-chan had leaked the exam. In-jae personally stepped forward to explain that a teacher in the school had accidentally revealed the exams trend to a cram school where Min-ki was taking extra lessons, leading to the recent incident. The students seemed quite skeptical, but In-jae convinced them, and Min-ki's act of giving up on the exam, despite having the answers beforehand, made the whole class nod in agreement. The scene shifts. While eating noodles, Hung-soo received a call informing him that Yong-ho had been captured by thugs. He immediately left Nam-sun and went to the meeting point with his two friends, Yi-kung and Ji-hun, to rescue Jung-ho. Inside, Yong-ho was being beaten beyond recognition. His three friends rushed in to rescue Jung-ho. The thugs demanded immediate payment of the debt to release him. Otherwise, they would beat him for as much as he owed, counting it as interest. The tension was high when Nam-sun suddenly arrived with a piggy bank containing over 300,000 of his own savings, which he paid to the thugs to save Yong-ho. It turned out that this money was from the late fees collected from classmates. Nam's son had no other choice but to do this, and gave Yong-woo's group 3 days to return that money to the class. The next morning, Nam's son, once again in his role as class president, stood up to gather everyone's opinion on opposing In-jae's resignation. The entire class voted, and this time, everyone unanimously opposed it and wanted to keep In-jae. Before the last class ended, In-jae walked past the 11th grade second class, looking at her beloved students inside. When the class ended, Nam's son stood up and handed Se-chan the petition containing all the signatures of the classmates, with the aim of keeping In-jae. In the principal's office, after much persuasion and with the help of the vice principal, the principal agreed to the petition and kept In-jae based on the opinion of the students in the class. Knowing that In-jae was about to leave, they all wanted to organize a farewell party for her. Since no one brought money, they wanted to use the class's piggy bank. Nam's son and Hung-soo started to look pale at this point. Before leaving, the principal came to inform In-jae about the students' petition to keep her. But that would mean too many Korean language teachers at the school. Unexpectedly, Se-chan announced his decision to step down. Returning to the classroom, when the piggy bank was mentioned, Nam's son looked embarrassed. Just as he was about to make an excuse, a friend found the cabinet key and opened the compartment. The whole class was surprised not to see the piggy bank. Nam's son, unhesitatingly, said he had used all the money, which greatly disappointed his friends. The classmates discussed the class president's unauthorized act, which made Jung-ho quite annoyed. He was about to stand up and tell the truth about the money, when his friend Yi-kung stopped him and pulled him outside. Next, Nam's son stood in front of the class and apologized for taking the money, promising to return the full amount by Monday. The entire class no longer trusted Nam's son and wanted to report this to the homeroom teacher. Ha-kyung stepped forward and took responsibility for collecting the full amount, and said there would be appropriate punishment if Nam's son didn't pay on time. After that, Ha-kyung met Nam's son to ask why he used the class's money. Ha-kyung was quite annoyed that the matter was related to Jung-ho again. Ha-kyung wanted to help Nam's son find the quickest solution, because she had taken responsibility for collecting the money and helping to calm the class down. If he didn't pay on time, they would all be in big trouble. The scene shifts to a meeting of the teachers about the incident involving the 11th grade second class. Currently, it's full of problematic students, so In-jae's departure at this moment wasn't really necessary. Someone like In-jae was needed to help the students behave well and provide motivation. The teachers continuously spoke well of In-jae during the meeting, which made the principal reconsider. Finally, In-jae's resignation was rejected. The substitute teacher would be transferred to another school, and In-jae would continue working at the school and homeroom the 11th grade second class, as per the wishes of parents and students. After that, Se-chan and In-jae returned to the classroom. The students were very sad that In-jae was about to leave, but she announced that starting today, she would once again be the homeroom teacher for the class, which made everyone overjoyed. After that, the gym teacher came and asked both homeroom teachers to participate in teaching the makeup physical education class with him. The class was divided into pairs, boy-boy and girl-girl, and both homeroom teachers also participated in the game, which made everyone excited. The whistle blew, and the whole class played a very fun game of throwing the ball. This activity helped the whole class bond and understand each other better. At the end of physical education class, the homeroom teachers invited the whole class to eat persimmon cake. The students were very happy. The scene shifts to earn enough money to pay back the class by Monday. Jung-ho's group went to many restaurants to ask for part-time work, but no one hired them. Finally, a restaurant hired all three of them as servers for 4,000 won. However, while working, Jung-ho accidentally stained a customer's shirt, which made him furious. He knocked over a stack of dishes in Jung-ho's hands and insulted him. Jung-ho couldn't take it anymore at this point, so he threw all the dishes and showed an attitude of not wanting to do any more work. He changed his clothes and left, despite his two friends trying to persuade him. But with his stubborn personality, Jung-ho wouldn't just go home. No need for more words. The scene shifts. Monday morning had arrived. It was time for Nam's son to return the money he had taken. However, he was still short over 100,000 won, so he asked Ha-kyung for an extension until the end of the day to find a way to get enough. His kind friend contributed a little of her own money and gave Nam's son until the end of the day to pay the full amount. After that, it was lunchtime, and Jung-ho still hadn't come to school, so the group of 4 students gathered to find a way to complete the missing amount. One suggested gambling to earn money. Another wanted to borrow from the homeroom teachers. The scene shifts after physical education class. Jung-ho suddenly appeared with a stack of money in his hand. His 2 close friends quickly pulled him outside to report to Nam's son. They all wanted to know where the money came from, but Jung-ho didn't say. They decided to just return the full amount to the class first, and then figure out the rest. Nam's son gave all the money to Ha-kyung, and apologized to the entire class. At the same time, their friend Hun discovered that her newly bought phone had been stolen. A friend voiced suspicion that the class president had stolen it to sell it to repay the fund, but no one clarified anything. Ha-kyung asked Nam's son about the missing money. He said it was from Yong-woo, who brought it to make up the amount, and he was sure Yong-woo hadn't stolen the black phone. The conversation about the class fund money being used to help Yong-woo was overheard by their friend Min-ki, who wanted to report this to the entire class, suspecting that he had stolen the phone. After that, the matter reached the two homeroom teachers, so they canceled the afternoon class to find the culprit who had stolen the phone. Now, suspicion arose that Jung-ho had done it. Therefore, after school, the group of 5 friends gathered to ask Jung-ho about the money he brought. Being suspected by his friends of stealing the phone made Jung-ho extremely angry. He vehemently denied it, then sulked and left. The next day, the police were called to the school to investigate the theft. Someone had reported the incident to the police and suspected that Jung-ho was the culprit. The two homeroom teachers were quite surprised that the incident had not been reported beforehand. Next, the teachers and 2 police officers went to class 112 to investigate and find clues. Si-chan wanted the 2 police officers to wait outside so he could go in and calm the students. Suddenly, the 2 police officers walked in and announced that Jung-ho was not the culprit. A CCTV check in the hallway showed that it was another student who had stolen it. After physical education class, no one else but the name Hung-soo was being called, which completely surprised the class. Hung-soo was taken away by the police, to everyone's dismay, so Si-chan had to explain to calm the class down. Hung-soo was immediately taken to the station by the police because he had been on probation before. Hung-soo sat in the car, tears streaming down his face, under the watchful eyes of his best friend, Nam's son. After Hung-soo was led away by the police, everyone was very worried, but they also believed that he didn't do it. And indeed, In-jae eventually went to the police station to pick up Hung-soo because they couldn't find any evidence, but the phone still hadn't been found. After school, feeling guilty, Na-ri went to see Se-chan to confess to hiding her friend's phone. It turned out she was close friends with Se-an, but ever since her friend got a new phone, she ignored Na-ri. So Na-ri wanted to hide it for a while, hoping her friend would come back to play with her, but she didn't expect it to cause trouble for her classmates. After the phone was found, all suspicion in the class fell on Yi-kyung, because he often arrived early. During an argument with Un-hee, seeing Yi-kyung falsely accused, Jung-ho stepped forward to defend him, and revealed that the real culprit was Na-ri, because while cleaning up, Jung-ho had accidentally picked up a discarded self-reflection statement. And another unfortunate incident was that while trying to stop Jung-ho and Un-hee from arguing, Yi-kyung was accidentally pushed down by Jung-ho and hit the ground. This incident made his mother angry, and she came to school demanding that In-jae be dealt with. Jung-ho and the anti-school violence committee started their work. At this moment, everyone was thinking of ways to save Jung-ho, because the risk of him being expelled would be very high. Nam's son went to see Ha-kyung to ask her to persuade her mother to drop the matter. As for Na-ri, after her classmates learned about it, she felt ashamed and lonely due to her self-consciousness. But then Se-an proactively sought her out with a black and white phone in her hand, and so the 2 close friends were happy again like before. Se-an stood in the middle of the class and explained that her phone wasn't taken by Na-ri, but that she had actually lent it to a friend and forgotten, which caused the misunderstanding. In the classroom, instead of reciting a poem, Ji-hun stood up with a paper expressing his apology to Jung-ho for what he had done to him before. Of course, Jung-ho was very happy to forgive his friend. Na-ri proactively went to see Se-chan to tell her teacher that although she didn't like his teaching style much at first, she now really wanted Se-chan to still be her homeroom teacher next year. Returning to the teacher's room, Se-chan told In-jae about his intention to resign. While she was still surprised, Nam's son's call came in. It turned out Jung-ho's father had beaten him, and he was in the hospital. She rushed there and then informed Se-chan to come. It was then that In-jae learned about Jung-ho's circumstances. The next morning, Ha-kyung met Nam's son and informed him that she hadn't been able to persuade her mother. Seeing this, Nam's son advised Ha-kyung not to confront them. If she did, Jung-ho couldn't be convicted. At the school's disciplinary committee meeting, for the first time, Jung-ho apologized and asked for forgiveness with his sincerity. Along with Ha-kyung's absence, the matter was dismissed, and Jung-ho gradually felt the empathy and help everyone gave him. In the classroom, Se-chan and In-jae stood in front of the whole class to say goodbye, because it was the last class before moving up to 12th grade. All the students were happy to move up a grade. Nam's son and Hung-soo felt like they were dreaming, because they didn't think they could be 12th grade students. Meanwhile, in the classroom, In-jae still stood alone as if waiting for someone. Then she smiled brightly and nodded in agreement when Se-chan walked in with the question. Class isn't over yet, is it? It turned out he had torn up his resignation letter, deciding to return to the classroom with his beloved students. This is where the story ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss out on more amazing videos. For now, goodbye and until next time.